Hi, welcome to Conflict Story, where we bring you the best and most fascinating stories just for you. Let's dive right into one of those stories. It begins like this.
My grandfather's cabin was more than a rustic getaway. It was a sanctuary of my childhood, where the scent of pine and the sound of rustling leaves made the world stand still. Summers were spent catching fish, or more often, mosquitoes, as Grandpa shared stories by the fire. When he passed, the cabin became mine, along with a cryptic note: "Protect it. They will try to take it from you." At the time, I thought he was being melodramatic. Who were they? Bears, land developers. It wasn't long before I found out. Enter the homeowner association. I didn't live at the cabin full time. It was a 950 square foot retreat perched on the edge of a pristine lake in northern Michigan, far from the chaos of my suburban home, a haven where I worked remotely, surrounded by nature's serenity. Grandpa had ensured the property was excluded from any homeowner association when he bought it decades ago. But apparently, that didn't stop Evergreen Pines Homeowner Association from trying to claim it. It started with a letter, delivered on pastel paper, embossed with florid golden lettering. "Dear property owner," it began, in a tone that dripped with thinly veiled authority. "Your property has come to our attention as being out of compliance with the aesthetic standards of Evergreen Pines Homeowner Association. Please contact us to discuss bringing it into alignment." I chuckled and tossed it in the trash. They couldn't enforce rules on a property outside their jurisdiction. Or so I thought. A week later, I found Marcy, the homeowner association president, standing in my driveway, clipboard in hand. She had the air of someone who thought they could levy fines on squirrels for chewing bark. Her impeccably styled hair didn't move in the breeze, and her smile was a calculated mixture of condescension and faux politeness. "Can I help you?" I asked on stepping out of the cabin. "Oh, just admiring the property," she replied, her eyes scanning my porch as though searching for violations. "Well, you can admire it from the road," I said firmly. Her smile faltered. "This cabin is charming," she said, her tone implying the opposite. "But it doesn't meet our community standards." "It's not part of your community," I shot back. Her grip on the clipboard tightened. "Actually, Evergreen Pines has recently expanded its boundaries. This property now falls within our purview." "Purview?" I repeated, incredulous. "This isn't a game of Monopoly. You can't just annex land." Her eyes narrowed slightly and she tapped her pen against the clipboard. "We can discuss this at our next homeowner association meeting. For now, I've noted several non-compliance issues." "You've noted—" I trailed off, stunned by her audacity. "You have no jurisdiction here. Get off my land." Her expression hardened. "We'll see about that." She turned and marched back to her car, her heels clicking sharply against the gravel. What followed was nothing short of a campaign of harassment. Homeowner association representatives began appearing unannounced, snapping photos of the property and leaving notes about supposed violations. Letters flooded my mailbox, each more ridiculous than the last. One claimed the weathered charm of my cabin's exterior was an eyesore that disrupted the community's aesthetic harmony. Another demanded I repaint the outhouse, an outhouse that hadn't been operational in decades. It was infuriating, but I wasn't alone for long. Carl, my neighbor a mile down the road, was a retired attorney with a penchant for fishing and a long-standing grudge against the homeowner association. When I explained my situation, he grinned. "Marcy's bitten off more than she can chew this time," he said. "Let's give her a fight she won't forget." Carl wasn't the only ally I found. Diane, the fiery owner of the local bait shop, had her own tales of homeowner association tyranny. "She fined me $300 for having a sign that didn't conform to their color palette," Diane fumed. "It's my shop, not the Taj Mahal." Diane's network of customers, many of whom had their own grievances with Marcy, quickly rallied to our cause. We began documenting everything: photos of Marcy trespassing, recordings of her threats, and copies of every absurd letter. Carl dug into the homeowner association's bylaws and quickly found that my property was explicitly excluded from their jurisdiction. Diane spearheaded a community meeting where residents shared their stories of overreach. Each tale painted a clearer picture. Marcy's homeowner association wasn't about community improvement. It was about control. The real breakthrough came when a former homeowner association board member named Frank came forward. Frank had quit after clashing with Marcy over her heavy-handed tactics. He provided a trove of documents, financial records, meeting minutes, and emails that exposed rampant corruption. Marcy had been funneling homeowner association funds into her cousin's landscaping business and using her position to settle personal vendettas. As we pieced together the evidence, my determination solidified. This wasn't just about saving my cabin. It was about taking a stand against a system that had bullied too many for too long. And Marcy? She'd just declared war on the wrong person. The day after Diane's community meeting, the fight against the homeowner association escalated to a new level. Marcy must have realized we were onto her because she switched from passive-aggressive letters to outright intimidation. That morning, I found a notice taped to the cabin door. It was a demolition order, claiming the structure was unsafe and a blight on the community. Marcy's signature was scrawled at the bottom in bold, looping letters. My blood boiled. I immediately called Carl. "Can she do this?" I asked, barely containing my anger. "Not legally," he replied. "This is just another one of her scare tactics. But it's time we push back harder." Carl filed an injunction against the demolition order that same day, citing the homeowner association's lack of jurisdiction and the illegality of the order. Meanwhile, Diane's network was working overtime. Word spread quickly about the homeowner association's overreach, and more residents came forward with their own stories. The common thread? Marcy had weaponized the homeowner association to consolidate power and bully anyone who stood in her way. We needed to go on the offensive. Carl suggested we investigate the homeowner association's finances more deeply, using Frank's documents as a starting point. What we found was shocking. Marcy had not only funneled money to her cousin's landscaping business, but had also charged exorbitant fines and pocketed a portion under the guise of administrative fees. She had even expensed a luxury spa weekend as a community outreach initiative. Armed with this evidence, we decided to make our fight public. Diane organized a rally outside the homeowner association's main office, inviting local media to cover the event. On the day of the rally, dozens of residents showed up, carrying signs that read, "Stop Homeowner Association Abuse," and "Marcy must go." Diane, never one to shy away from the spotlight, took the microphone and delivered a fiery speech that left no doubt about her feelings. "This isn't just about one cabin or one person," she declared. "It's about standing up to a system that's supposed to serve the community, not exploit it. Marcy and her cronies think they can intimidate us into submission. Well, they're wrong." The rally made waves. The local news station aired a segment about the growing resistance against the homeowner association, complete with interviews from residents who had been harassed for years. One woman shared how Marcy had fined her $500 for having a garden gnome, claiming it was an unapproved decorative item. Another man revealed that Marcy had tried to force him to repaint his house to match her preferred color scheme. But the real bombshell came from Frank. During the rally, he stepped up to the microphone, clutching a folder of incriminating documents. "I've kept quiet for too long," he said, his voice steady but firm. "Marcy has abused her position and violated the trust of this community. It's time for the truth to come out." Frank's revelations hit the homeowner association like a lightning strike. Within days, the local paper published an exposé detailing Marcy's corruption, complete with financial records and testimonies from residents. The pressure was mounting, and Marcy's usual bravado began to crack. But she wasn't ready to go down without a fight. One week after the rally, I woke up to the sound of heavy machinery. Looking out the window, I saw a bulldozer parked at the edge of my property, flanked by two homeowner association lackeys in matching polo shirts. My stomach dropped. I grabbed my phone and sprinted outside, recording as I went. "What the hell is this?" I demanded, confronting the lackeys. One of them, a scrawny man with glasses that kept sliding down his nose, and stammered, "We're here to enforce the demolition order." I couldn't help but laugh, though it was more out of disbelief than humor. "You mean the demolition order that's already been blocked by a court injunction?" I held up the paperwork for emphasis. The man's face turned red. We weren't informed of that." "Well, consider yourself informed," I said, waving the papers in front of him. "And unless you want to face a lawsuit for unlawful destruction of private property, I suggest you and your bulldozer leave." After a tense pause, the lackeys retreated, grumbling under their breath as they climbed back into the bulldozer and drove off. I made sure to get the entire encounter on video, knowing it would be invaluable in our case against the homeowner association. That incident was the turning point. The video went viral in the community, sparking outrage among residents who had grown tired of Marcy's reign of terror. Carl and I filed an official lawsuit against the homeowner association, accusing them of harassment, fraud, and abuse of power. Diane rallied even more residents to sign a petition demanding Marcy's resignation. The movement was unstoppable. By the time Marcy realized the tide had turned against her, it was too late. The lawsuit, combined with the community's overwhelming support, forced her to step down as homeowner association president. But the battle wasn't over yet. The homeowner association itself was under scrutiny, and we weren't about to let them off the hook. As for me, I finally had a moment to breathe. Standing on the porch of my grandfather's cabin, I felt a renewed sense of purpose. This fight wasn't just about protecting a piece of land. It was about preserving a legacy and standing up for what's right. And if Marcy or anyone else thought they could take that away from me, they'd soon learn just how wrong they were. Marcy's resignation as homeowner association president might have been a victory, but it didn't mean the battle was over. In fact, her departure only revealed the deeper rot within the Evergreen Pines Homeowner Association. Her loyal cronies still clung to their positions on the board, and they wasted no time trying to regroup. It was clear they hoped to weather the storm and continue business as usual. But we weren't going to let that happen. Diane, Carl, and I redoubled our efforts, determined to dismantle the entire system that had allowed Marcy to run unchecked for so long. The first step was to ensure that the financial audit we'd initiated was thorough and public. Carl, with his legal expertise, worked tirelessly to make sure the auditors had access to every last record. What they found was shocking, even after everything we already knew. The audit revealed that Marcy had diverted tens of thousands of dollars into personal accounts under the guise of consulting fees and community development projects. Her cronies had benefited as well, receiving kickbacks for supporting her decisions. The homeowner association's funds, which were supposed to maintain common areas and improve the neighborhood, had been drained to pay for Marcy's vacations, landscaping for her private property, and even a designer wardrobe. The scandal rocked the community. At Diane's suggestion, we organized another community meeting to present the findings. This time, the turnout was even larger. The town hall was packed with angry residents, many of whom had suffered under the homeowner association's oppressive rule for years. Carl took the stage, laying out the evidence in a way that was both clear and damning. As he spoke, gasps and murmurs of disbelief rippled through the crowd. "This isn't just mismanagement," Carl said, his voice steady but firm. "This is fraud, plain and simple, and it's time we took action to hold those responsible accountable." The crowd erupted into applause. A vote was taken on the spot, and the overwhelming majority supported a motion to dissolve the current homeowner association board entirely. Diane, ever the community organizer, had already prepared the paperwork to file with the state to formally disband the homeowner association. It was a bold move, but one that felt necessary to restore trust and fairness to the neighborhood. Meanwhile, the lawsuit Carl and I had filed against the homeowner association gained momentum. With the audit's findings and the community's backing, the case became nearly airtight. Marcy's cronies tried to mount a defense, claiming they'd been unaware of her actions, but the evidence told a different story. Emails and meeting minutes showed they had not only been complicit, but had actively participated in covering up her misdeeds. Despite their attempts to save themselves, the remaining board members began resigning one by one, unable to withstand the mounting pressure. By the time the court ruled in our favor, the Evergreen Pines Homeowner Association was effectively defunct. The judge not only invalidated all outstanding fines and citations, but also ordered restitution for residents who had been wrongfully penalized. Marcy's cronies were barred from serving on any homeowner association board in the future, and Marcy herself faced criminal charges for embezzlement and fraud. With the homeowner association officially dismantled, the neighborhood underwent a transformation. Diane led an initiative to form a new, resident-run community council, one focused on collaboration rather than control. Carl and I volunteered to help draft the council's bylaws, ensuring transparency and accountability were at the forefront. The council's first act was to host a town-wide celebration, complete with food trucks, live music, and a raffle to raise funds for community projects. The day of the celebration was one I'll never forget. Standing on the porch of my grandfather's cabin, watching families laugh and children play. I felt an overwhelming sense of peace. The cabin was safe, the legacy preserved, and the community stronger than ever. Diane and Carl joined me for a toast, and as we clinked our glasses, Diane grinned. "To Marcy," she said, raising her glass with mock solemnity. "May she find joy in her new orange jumpsuit," Carl added, eliciting a round of laughter. But just when it seemed the saga was finally over, a new challenge emerged. The very next morning, I received a call from Diane. "You're not going to believe this," she said, her voice tinged with both disbelief and determination. Apparently, some of Marcy's old allies had started circulating rumors about forming a new homeowner association under a different name. It was a blatant attempt to reclaim power, and it proved that while we had won the battle, the war wasn't quite finished. I sighed but couldn't help smiling. If they wanted another fight, they'd picked the wrong community to mess with. We'd already proven we could stand together, and now we were stronger than ever. The clipboard mafia wasn't coming back on our watch. Despite the rumors of a new homeowner association brewing, the community remained united. We had tasted victory and weren't about to let Marcy's cronies worm their way back into power. Diane, ever the organizer, proposed a preemptive strike, a formal resolution declaring the neighborhood a non-homeowner association zone, ensuring no future group could impose their will without unanimous consent. Carl drafted the resolution, and it passed with overwhelming support at the next community meeting. The resolution became a symbol of our defiance, a declaration that our neighborhood valued collaboration over control. The paperwork was filed with the county, officially removing any lingering homeowner association authority. For the first time in years, residents felt free to live without the shadow of fines or pastel notices. But Marcy wasn't done. From the confines of her legal battles, she launched one last desperate move. A lawyer representing her contacted me directly, claiming Marcy had evidence that my grandfather's property transfer to me was invalid. It was a clear attempt to intimidate me, but the threat hit a nerve. My grandfather's cabin was more than just land. It was a legacy. I wasn't about to let her tarnish it. Carl and I reviewed the claim thoroughly. It was baseless, a flimsy argument grasping at straws. Still, we took no chances. We gathered every document, every piece of evidence proving the cabin's rightful transfer. When Marcy's lawyer threatened to escalate, we filed a countersuit for harassment and malicious intent. The legal skirmish was brief. Marcy, already weakened by the fraud charges and community backlash, withdrew the claim before it even reached court. It was a hollow victory for her, a final gasp of defiance before fading into irrelevance. With Marcy out of the picture for good, life in the neighborhood flourished. Diane's bait shop became a hub for community events, hosting everything from fishing tournaments to charity drives. Carl, embracing semi-retirement, started a free legal clinic for residents to ensure no one would ever face the kind of harassment we'd endured. And me? I focused on restoring the cabin, pouring my energy into honoring my grandfather's memory. One evening, as I was repainting the porch, Carl pulled up in his pickup truck. He handed me an envelope with a smirk. "You've got mail," he said. Inside was a handwritten note. "You might have won this round, but don't get too comfortable. People like me don't stay down for long." It was unsigned, but the spite practically oozed off the page. I laughed and showed it to Carl, who rolled his eyes. "Let them try," he said. "They'll never break this community again." In the months that followed, the neighborhood's transformation became a source of pride. Residents planted gardens, painted their homes vibrant colors, and organized block parties that brought everyone together. The oppressive air of the homeowner association had been replaced with one of creativity and camaraderie. The cabin became a symbol of resilience. Tourists stopping by the lake often asked about its story, and Diane, never one to pass up an opportunity to share, would recount the Battle of Evergreen Pines with flair. The tale of how a grieving grandson, a fiery bait shop owner, and a retired lawyer took down the clipboard, mafia became a local legend. As I stood on the porch one crisp autumn evening, watching the sun dip below the horizon, I felt an overwhelming sense of peace. My grandfather's warning had been right. They'll try to take it from you. But he hadn't counted on the power of a united community. And if Marcy or anyone else ever tried to come back, well, they'd find out the hard way that Evergreen Pines wasn't just a neighborhood, it was a family. Are you hungry for more slices of stories? Don't forget to subscribe and hit the ball to never miss out on any videos. See you tomorrow.